Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another entry in the Hyrule Compendium. So, our last compendium, we talked about kind of how disappointed we were with the dungeon maker, the chamber dungeons in Link's Awakening. I've had a lot of thoughts about this because the number one thing that goes through my head that makes me like it even less when I'm playing it is I see all the little things that could have been done to make the experience more enjoyable.
I do feel that despite all the problems, that they could have used this as sort of a template, and if they gave you a lot more customization, it could be great.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about a whole brand new, they don't need to do anything revolutionary here.
I agree. I think we talked about it months ago when this first was announced, and I think you were a little bit more skeptical about what could be done in such a small scale. I still think that you could have made it where the rooms are small and stuff like that, work within the limitations of Link's Awakening and still make an interesting dungeon. I don't know if you feel that way now.
The smallest of tweaks they could have done is, I know you're taking the pre-existing rooms from the dungeons. If they made it where you can tweak them a little bit, where it's okay, this doesn't necessarily need to have a locked door on the right side. You can just change it to a regular door, or a one-way door, or a bombable door, whatever you want to do it. And every single room, it's still the pre-existing room, but you can make those little changes. So now you're not locked into this has to have a staircase. This
Absolutely.
has to, okay, so now it gives you a little bit more freedom. Other tweaks, we talked about the stairs, how they're kind of terrible.
Yeah, you should just be able to say, I want this stair to go to that stair.
Yes.
I
think that needed to be just a given. Another thing, I feel you still are a little bit limited with what the dungeons give you. With the rooms.
Yeah.
But I think this is not that hard. It would be an ideal world where you can just totally just make your own rooms.
Yeah, that's going back to what I said. That's why I think the simplicity of the 8x8 or whatever it is could work, because I don't see why you couldn't just go, okay, this tile, it's floor. This tile, it's gap. This tile, water. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is lava. There's not that many elements here.
Yeah, there's 8 options that it could be on the ground,
That being said, I don't even know if you need to do that.
I agree, because I do think when I thought about that, I'm okay, I think that opens up a lot. That opens up a lot more work, I think, than they're probably wanting to put into for this mode. You know?
What I think they could do is just literally make 500 different small rooms that are their own. And then you find them in the overworld kind of thing. You found some chambers. Here's 50 puzzle pieces. And they're all differently designed that are unique, that are not in the dungeons.
Okay.
The one thing that I think the game really needed, though, is you should be able to customize, I think, the enemies that appear.
Okay, yeah.
I think that would be, so it's not just the same dungeon.
Almost like they have a list of rooms and then a list of enemies.
Right. So it can be by default, but it's you want to sub this shrouded Stalfos and put a ball and chain trooper? Okay, great. I'm very comfortable with the game at this point, where there's no enemy in the game that really gives me trouble.
Yeah.
Is there any, can you even think of a combination of a room that could give you a lot of trouble?
Maybe if you mix 2 enemies that I've never...
Right.
Because a lot of it is... Okay, this enemy is kind of tough, but I've been in this room before. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if you could probably, I probably couldn't think of it unless I was actually there. But you could probably, maybe ones that require certain items to defeat.
Right. Stuff but the ball and chain trooper I think is a tough one if you don't have the Rock's feather or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
In A Link Between Worlds is a good example. Towards the end of the game, there's enemies that are only in Lorule Castle or something. Link's Awakening doesn't really have that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any enemies that are exclusive. There's a Vire that's only in Turtle Rock, but but there's not that many. It'd be nice if there was another stage of some of the basic enemies. If there were, there's a red dark nut, a blue dark nut or red dark nut. Now there's a black one or something, and it's moves double the speed or something. And
build upon the game a little bit.
And then you can make in your dungeon, it's you start and you can go left or right. I'm just on a very simplistic. You go left and suddenly there's a purple ball and chain trooper or something who's incredibly tough and you have no weapons. It's like, ooh, I don't want to go there. But you could.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But then, you go the other way and it eventually leads to a boomerang or something, which destroys that guy.
That's like the creativity aspect you could get into. It's a thing that they thought of with Mario Maker where you don't want to make it too complicated.
Right.
Because then it'll turn away people. But I think one thing they did well in that was establish, like, okay, if you have this enemy and you place it here, it takes up this much space and, like, nothing else can go there.
Okay.
So you could do that, I think, too, if you're like, okay, you want to place a Stalfos, it's going to take up, like, you know, a 4 square grid.
Right, yeah.
And it can only go on, you know, a floor or something. You know?
There would have to be some limitations here. You're not going to put, like a Hynix and, you know, and 6 Stalfoses and, you know, a Keese and...
Right. Exactly. I think they can, you know... But I think they could have that limitation in there.
The other thing, we talked about this before, the fact that you know what the dungeon looks like before you play it is a problem.
Yeah.
So, one, I mean, this goes without saying, it needs to have online play. Mm-hmm. You need to be able to, I need to be able to make a dungeon, post it online, and you can play it. Or I can, if like you can just, amongst friends, come play my dungeon. You shouldn't be able to see my dungeon, though. It should be, here's the dungeon, and... you start playing, and it should be a blank slate.
Yes, yeah.
And I should be able to place a dungeon map and a compass in there, wherever I want to.
Bonus points if you can add a stone beak with a customized message.
I don't know if we need some stone beaks, but I think if you can, like, pick, there's a treasure chest here, this is going to contain the map, this is going to contain the compass, then you're not just, like, you know... shooting in the dark with what's going on.
Yeah, that's another big thing too, is that you can't say, like, I want this to be a key. It's like, no, like, for sure the one before the final boss is going to be the nightmare key. You don't want that. So there's no, like, okay, I need this key, so I got to remember to go back here, which is like what exploring Zelda dungeons is kind of about. It's about sort of remembering the mental map,
right?
You know,
this is another big thing. I think the game does this a little bit where, like, at times it says you can't use your sword.
Yeah.
You know, you need to have, I think, full control over everything with the inventory. So, like, think of this example. You're playing my level. You've got 10 hearts. You got a sword and a shield.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Right.
But somewhere in the dungeon, you're going to go to a room where there's a gap and you got to get across. Oh, you can't get across. You need the hook shot.
Right.
Hook shot is a dungeon item in the dungeon.
Yeah.
It needs to be somewhere, like, hidden there.
Yeah.
And, like, you need to be, I think, obviously you're restrained to what the items are for the game. Yeah. But I think you should be able to make an entire dungeon where your entire inventory is there. But you have to find them. Yeah. And maybe there's some backtracking. You realize there's a treasure chest. You can't reach it because you need bombs. You don't have bombs. Where do you get bombs from? Maybe it's somewhere else in the, stuff like this. Yeah. Where there's more traditional navigation where you're stuck. You can't figure out where to go because you need, you reach dead ends, but you got to figure out, where you can progress.
I think there's one issue that you still run into without opening up a whole can of worms is that the conditions to make treasure chests / keys or whatever appear so you can get them is I think that's why they have the select rooms, because they don't have to, like, there's no complication. It's like you do the same thing, Right, yeah. There would have, like, in a proper Zelda Maker that people would want, you'd have to be able to be like, kill all enemies and the key appears, like, I'm just saying, if you took that away, then it becomes way more complicated for them to do, which is probably why they didn't do it. Right, But if you still have that, you still run into a problem that I think we said in the last video is, how do you know how to beat all the rooms? Right, yeah. Even if you swap out the enemies, it's like, the rooms are still not so much a problem. I think a lot of rooms in the original Link's Awakening anyway there's not too many puzzle rooms. No, they're not. So
no, you're kind of limited to the variation. It wasn't until, like, amongst the 2D games, I would say, like Oracle of Ages, and more so even with Minish Cap, where suddenly there was, like, when there was ice on the floor and you're pushing blocks and stuff like that, or you had Rock's Feather and you're jumping over and changing floor color tiles, like stuff like that, where it's like, ooh, now there's more to using Link's Awakening as the sample.
It's more of, I need to figure out, I got the key, where do I use it?
Yeah.
Remember where to use it. They do have some puzzles, you know, like kill the Stalfos first here and stuff, but overall, or later on you have like Eagle's Tower, and even like Face Shrine has some weird stuff. But for the most part, you know, even the last dungeon in that game is a lot of just, well, you kill all the enemies and the key appears.
Right,
know? Shoot the statue, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that would be something that I think people would have forgiven if the other things were right. And something that maybe, you know, if it was successful, you could look down the road and be like, okay, how do we... Because it's something they added actually to Mario Maker 2 was conditions for beating the courses. It wasn't just get to the end. So that could be something that I think people, much like a lot of stuff in Mario Maker 1, where it's like, okay, you can't do everything you want to do, but you can do a lot, and you can get really creative and do stuff they've never done before, and then they'll add more as time goes on. I think that could happen with chamber dungeons, even if they're very simple. People are clever, you know. They can come up with workarounds for stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if they made a full-blown Zelda Maker, taking it out of the world of Link's Awakening and just making a brand new game, then suddenly everything is on the table.
Yeah.
But I think there's actually enough just within Link's Awakening to make this a very enjoyable experience if they wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the starting point, and it goes, you know, somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they did say in some, you know, oh, if people like this, maybe down the road. I don't even know if people necessarily need to like it. I think it's maybe like I'm sure they've probably seen enough of the reactions. I think a lot of people feel the same, where it's like, this is disappointing, but we still want more.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think anything I've suggested here is a major tweak. Like, I'm not saying they need to... Maybe the new enemies is a bit much, but like, I'm not saying they need to... Oh, they need to redesign the game and add new elements so you can create your own puzzles, because that's a big ordeal.
Right.
But like, what upsets me is that the foundation is there, and I think with a little more, almost maybe with some hindsight of how it was received, if they had a little bit more time, they could have made this significantly better.
Yeah, because a lot of it, while I said they were making it easy for people, a lot of it too feels like, well, this will be a whole lot simpler if we just do it this way, you know?
Yeah.
Like, for them to put together, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, if we have to include, like, getting a map, we're gonna have to spend, you know, I'm not saying they're lazy or anything.
You know, I don't like question Nintendo too much here, but like, I wonder if they're actually proud of what they made with this.
Okay.
I seriously think that way.
Wow.
Are you proud of yourself, Mr.
Look at what you've done. Is this Anuma? Yeah.
Yeah. Or you guys at Grezzo, are you proud of yourself?
Come on, Grezzo.
Like, is this your best effort?
We had so much faith in you before.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like Grezzo. They're good people.
They're good people. Yeah, good peeps.
All right. So, yeah, what would you have done to make this better, apart from just doing a full-blown Zelda Maker? Because that's the realm we're working within. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt a little bit.
Yeah. If there's any other ideas that I didn't think of, I'm curious to know what other people's thoughts are somewhat within the limitations.
Let's be reasonable.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll get a Zelda Maker someday?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to get a game called Zelda Maker. I think it could be more of a mini game.
A feature added on to future games? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so.
What do you think? Leave us a comment. Let us know. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe. And thanks for watching. All right. Fix that.
I don't know why we need to do that, but I felt like we needed to do that.
It bothers me.